Okay, I'm Kimberly Graves. I'm from Aruba HPE. And we had to, as Keith was just saying, we had to do a little kind of maneuvering here on the presentations because I'm going to be announcing some things prior to UC's presentation. So what I want to talk with you all about today is Meridian BLE design and planning. And I kind of want to tell you the way that we have been designing and planning our Meridian Beacons for the past 2 or 3 years. And then we'll be talking about kind of the new way that we'd like to be doing that. So just a refresher for those of you who maybe aren't that familiar with the Aruba Beacon hardware. The BLE Beacons come in a lot of different formats. So the easiest to deploy, the most common that we see are these little battery-powered beacons. Okay, I saw some of them sitting out there on the table. They're super easy to install. They literally just get, double-sided adhesive, get mounted to a ceiling or a wall. All battery-powered. Right now, the battery life is 4 years for these. We also have little event beacons, which are smaller, cheaper, same ease of installation. The idea here is that they're put in for one event, just used for that event, and then left. So battery life of about 4 months. We also have USB powered, which is essentially just a little USB port with a BLE radio that can go into any BLE powered, port. So a kiosk or a TV or anything that's got a USB port on it. And then what we are seeing more and more of is in our Aruba infrastructure. So when we deploy out access points, we have access points that have BLE radios built into them. And so you can see here several of the 300 series access points now have that BLE radio just built right into it. We also have another product called the Aruba Sensor. The idea of the Aruba Sensor is it's a separate little unit. It's got a Wi-Fi radio. It's got a BLE radio built into it, and it's to be used for a different vendor's infrastructure. So if it's a different vendor for the Wi-Fi infrastructure, we can stick the sensor in. The sensor via the Wi-Fi can connect as a client to a different vendor Wi-Fi network, and then we can use the BLE radio through that sensor. So that's just kind of a big overview. And the purpose of all this beacon hardware is to enable the Aruba location services, so what we call ALS. So you can have an app on a mobile device, usually on a phone, and from that, as you're walking through a venue, it will have a blue dot similar to all of you who've probably used GPS on your phones, but the blue dot is BLE, which is the Bluetooth Low Energy enabled, so you can get location tracking of that device all the way through the venue. So I'm going to talk about how we've been deploying beacons for the last couple of years, kind of just a real quick overview here. It's very simple, not very complicated. I kind of liken it back to, I don't know, maybe 15, 18 years ago when Wi-Fi was just in the infancy stages, and we've all been there, or several of us in this room have been there, where it was, hey, we don't have any of this automatic, dynamic radio management. We're just going to set these channels, and we're going to kind of estimate. We're going to say, oh, we're going to just place an AP every 100 feet or every 150 feet, something like that. That's exactly where we are right now with the BLE technology. We have the first model called the path model. Basically, it's for a narrow hallway. We're going to place these little battery-powered beacons, or it could be the APs with the BLE-enabled radios, and we're just going to place these in a straight line down the hallway, and that's going to give us the best blue dot experience for our users in the app. Area model is for a wider hallway. So now we're going to place 2 rows. It's essentially just like the path model, but we're doing 2 rows of these battery-powered beacons or APs with BLE radios. And again, so our mobile devices have a good blue dot experience. Beacon distances. Like I said, it's kind of back to the early days of Wi-Fi. It's somewhere between 40 and 60 feet, whatever works best for your environment. In a lot of cases, it has to do with physical mounting locations. In places like airports where You've got these long corridors that go down to the gates of the airport. Usually those beacons are just mounted right on the ceiling in a straight line, wherever we can mount them, somewhere 40, 50, 60 feet apart. If you've got columns, in a building, a lot of times they're mounted up high on those columns. And that can range because of the physical distance anywhere in that, 40 or 60 feet. Again, the closer they are, the better location accuracy you get from the app. Antenna patterns, I just threw this in because I thought some of you might be interested in what the actual antenna pattern looks like for these BLE radios. It's basically an omnidirectional antenna that's in the beacons. Okay, beacon installation. It's real simple. Double-sided adhesive tape. That's it. They're not very heavy. I brought them here so you guys can take a look at them. Anyone who wants to come see them, I've got a handful of them. They do have little mounting brackets, but it's really not necessary because just some adhesive tape, stick it to the ceiling or the high up on the wall, and that's the beginning and end of mounting beacons. Sometimes for aesthetics, we put it up on the ceiling near a light, so it's just not as visible. They can be painted, they can, you can do different things to make it blend into the environment. There are some RF challenges, and remember, it's BLE, so it's all 2.4 gigahertz. There's no setting of manually setting of channels or power or anything like that. It's all done dynamically. But some of the challenges that we run into would be like this picture here on the left, where you have a more reflective environment. So you've got a stone floor, you've got these stone columns, anything that's a flatter, more reflective surface like that, you're gonna get a lot more bouncing around of that BLE signal. We would rather have the picture on the right where we have more dampening of that signal. So we don't have as much reflection happening. You see we've got carpet there, we still have columns, but they are wood columns that are not going to cause as much reflection of that signal. So looking at those two pictures, for something like the picture on the left, we might put our beacons closer together. In terms of how to mount them, and with very high ceilings, we recommend maybe up to about 15, 20-foot ceilings. Anything over that, we would just mount them on the wall. They can be oriented in any direction because it's omnidirectional antenna, so it doesn't matter if it's a ceiling mount or on the wall. And in a lot of cases, we don't even have to go up on the lift. You can see here one of the Aruba SEs made a cool little telescoping light pole, and he just puts the adhesive on and goes like this and sticks it onto the ceiling. Okay. So there are a lot of, this is the infancy of how to design the environment, how to design where to place these BLE beacons. And one of the challenges we have is now that we're seeing more and more APs with the BLE radio built into them, our APs are going to be placed, I don't know, roughly how far apart? How far apart do you guys place your APs? Depends. Oh, okay. Give me a range. Between 1 and 1,000 feet. Okay. So I can't put it at 1,001 feet, huh? Okay. Devin, give me a range. Yeah. Okay. Couple hundred feet. How about that? Couple hundred feet. 100 to 300 feet in a lot of cases, right? I'm just talking about your typical indoor carpeted space, right? 100 meters has always been that magic number, right? That we talk about how far apart to place your APs. I totally agree with you guys on how far apart. If I had asked you, go back to the Devin of 15 years ago, how far apart? Thank you. So, 100 meters-ish. And I know everyone's going to quote me. Kimberly Graves put it on Twitter. She said 100 meters. No, there's certainly a range. But back in the day, we kind of said, we're just going to put it X distance apart. That's the same place we are right now with BLE beacons, right? If someone asked me, I say between 40 and 60 feet, about 50 feet apart. Okay? We're trying to get every device, every mobile device, to hear 3 of these beacons chirping. And that's approximately the distance of how far Bluetooth travels. So we've had this challenge at Aruba the last year or two, and I teach a lot of these Meridian classes on Aruba Beacons, and everyone asks, well, that's not real, precise. So Aruba's gone back and forth about, should we have some planning software? Should we have, a more accurate way of designing this? But there's this company out there that already does a lot of modeling for Wi-Fi networks, right? So I'm pretty good, 10 seconds over. So I'm gonna bring UC up on stage from Ekahau, and he's gonna show you guys a new product that Ekahau has for modeling BLE beacons and for APs that have the BLE radios built into them. There you go.